Welcome to the show. I'm Monica Trauzi. With us today is Alexander Mirtchev, founder and president of the Kroll Corporation and a top international consultant on energy and oil markets. Alexander also serves as the senior economic advisor to the Prime Minister of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Alexander, thanks for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure.
Earlier this week, we heard that Ukraine and Russia had finally reached an agreement with their European nations on resuming the supply of natural gas from Russia to Europe. Russia claims that Ukraine has essentially shut off the pipelines that would allow this gas to go to Europe. What's the latest on where this situation stands and when we actually might see these pipelines reopening and natural gas going to Europe? What's the situation at this point?
I believe, first and foremost, it's fascinating to see how this issue has been seen from the point of view of different countries in the region. And you would see how they project their own political interest on the situation, making it much more complex than it is. But at the end of the day, I think that the issue is more or less resolved for now. It's going to reappear and re-emerge on a regular basis, simply because these type of situations are here to stay. What is happening in this particular case is that obviously Russia is reinforcing itself, is reasserting itself in the international space, and granting that this is their significant competitive advantage, the energy resources, something that is not not recognized in the press here. And we should live with this. We should kind of accept the realities that they view this as their competitive advantage, and rightfully so, and try to get the maximum benefits from the resources they have. On the other hand, lack of transparency on the process as a whole, and obviously the different claims that are there from the Ukrainian side, we are going to see this situation re-emerging again and again and again on a regular basis. The only end to the process would be a new type of engagement of Russia, where Russia would become a stakeholder in the process. But obviously this is coming with a certain political concessions that are not palatable for the West at the moment. And by the way, there is no coherent Western policy, including US policy and coordinated US policy, on the set of issues that come with this particular situation.
You're saying that we can expect to see this situation over and over again. This greatly impacts European nations, however. What can Europe be doing to sort of protect itself from not getting this flow of natural gas that it needs?
First of all, it's a finite resource, and obviously Russia is going to play a significant role in the supply. They need to diversify, but it's not going to resolve the issue. It's much more of a political slogan, at least at this particular stage. But most importantly, they need a coherent, consistent, coordinated, joint policy of resolving this issue. And basically, they're not speaking in one voice, not even on the same tone, all the European nations. So the result that they're getting is, you should see it also from a Russian perspective, how you're going to negotiate when you don't have the other party over there. And by the way, one could not be sure that the Russian side is that eager to negotiate. I believe that the current volatility more or less play within the cards of Russia.
So what does Russia's expanding energy influence mean for the U.S.? I mean, could this generate more hostility between our two nations?
I hope not. And there is no reason for this, providing that we recognized that, as I've mentioned, that it's a competitive advantage of Russia, and we should learn to live with this and negotiate with this in a constructive way. We shouldn't expect the Russians to abandon the premises of the equation, but we're in a position really to reach a coordinated agreement on the set of issues where one of them would be the energy, particularly this one. But the Europeans need to have a strong, united voice before anything like this happens. Second, obviously, is Russia is not just the only element of the equation. The diversity that would come with the new pipelines, with the new arrangements, obviously would balance the situation. And further down the road, which is not immediate, obviously we're seeing a lot of attempts to look for a substitute for the current arrangements. Whether this is going to materialize is a matter of policy and political will. And we're about to see whether the European nations are going to unite around such solutions.
So is Ukraine sort of the loser here? I mean, are their actions in response to things that Russia is doing, or are they acting on their own too? Are they a player in this game as well?
Of course they're a player, but one shouldn't see it one-sidedly. From Ukrainian point of view, of course they want to kind of live with the arrangement where they're getting the resources on a significant discount. And who doesn't?
Right.
It's a nice thing to have. Having said so, the real issue here is they should go in, I believe, and negotiate a long-term solution of the issue. And Russia is their neighbor, and vice versa. And it's a mutual interest of the two countries to have arrangement that would make sense for both of them. On the Ukrainian side, let's not forget that this is quite a transparent process. It has been inherited from the 90s, early 90s. And kind of you have a lot of improvements, adjustments of the process, but the basics of the formula, one could see the roots of the formula in the 90s, in the early 90s. And obviously we're living in the 21st century now. So basically they need to wake up and more or less kind of determine how they should deal with the numerous vested interests into the equation. As you understand, a lot of economical interests are there. At the same time, put the national interests on the top and find a solution that would make economical as well as political sense.
So the U.S. is swearing in a new president next week, President-elect Obama, and he has a strong emphasis on clean energy and energy efficiency. So how do you think that will tie into the foreign policy challenges that we might see moving forward with Russia?
Russia is hardly going to be the biggest policy challenge in front of that the new administration is going to face. At the same time, rightfully so, Russia more or less is building or wants to build not only a prosperous society, but a great state. And this is a bit of a different equation that we are accustomed here in Washington dealing with. And to what extent this is, in a certain sector, is going to be competitive and competition with our own interests. And we believe that we are better, and there is a constructive dialogue to take place. So in general, I think that from a strategic perspective, from the point of view of the history, we're on the same page.